This is part 9 in a series of videos in which I'm developing a drop-in replacement for the cassette drive on a Fluke 9010A. The idea is to make a solid-state drive that just uses small serial EEPROMs to simulate the operation of the cassette drive, and that will eliminate the need to try and track down expensive and hard to get hold of cassette tapes. Should also speed up the operation of the unit. It looks like it's going to be around 200 to 300 times faster than the cassette tape. On the home stretch now, I've done most of the interface work. I've now got the serial EEPROM tested. I've got the interface for that working. I'll just give a quick demonstration in this video. Before I start, I just want to clarify something, that there may be some confusion over what I do when I supply parts and how I make them available. In general, I do this for enjoyment. It's just a hobby, and the idea is to make these devices and components available to anyone that wants them and that's interested for as low a cost as I can. And in general, what I do is just sell them on for the same price that I pay for them. They can be fairly expensive simply because there's a very low demand for them, so I make very low numbers, and as with anything, that means the price is fairly high, but I try to cover the cost of them, but I don't make a profit. Because I don't make a profit, then I don't want to spend days supporting the product after sales, so that's one of the reasons I don't provide parts other than the ones that I design myself. And I sell them through my own website, but there's a lady that also sells them on her site on eBay. Now that's not my website. I have no direct control over it. I should say it's not my eBay account, and she sells the devices at very minimal profit margins. She tries to cover her costs as well. But in general, the parts are offered very comparable prices to what I sell, so neither one of us makes very much money. We do this simply to try and help people that are interested. And over the weekend, we had one gentleman in the US that decided to become extremely abusive towards her, and even very threatening. He'd ordered I believe some PCBs, and because he didn't want to pay the eBay international shipping charge, which, just to clarify, she has absolutely no control over. It's not money that she gets, eBay keep that. Because he didn't want to pay that, he demanded a refund, so she immediately provided a refund. I'm not quite sure what the problem was from that point on. He became immediately extremely abusive and very threatening, and he then for some reason contacted me directly and started being abusive towards me, and I made my position very clear to him, and he just continued. He sent 40 or 50 abusive emails and tried to report us to trading standards for counterfeit products. I would say that although I sell products for things like the Fluke, they're not counterfeits. I don't sell them as Fluke products. They're not branded as Fluke, and they're made available to try and help people out that want to keep their machines going, but they are not genuine Fluke parts. They are parts that I reproduce. Now, anyone that behaves like that, they're immediately blocked. I won't sell them anything, and obviously she won't sell them anything either. So you know, everyone do their part. Try to be civil. If you have an issue, or try and sort it out. But if you just become abusive, then you'll get cut off, and I won't deal with you. Okay, so that said, I've had some extremely positive feedback from almost everyone I've dealt with so far. Some very nice comments on the YouTube videos, and I'd like to keep it that way. I want to try and improve things and not have to deal with people that seem to have the idea that the world revolves around them and aren't willing to do their part in helping. Okay, so back to the project. The state it's at the moment is this is now pretty much ready to put onto PCB. It's all working. I'll quickly demonstrate it in a minute, but just a question for anyone that may be interested in this. In fact, two questions. There was an interesting comment on the previous video about the number of these units that are out there, and it's something I've wondered about as well. So one thing I'd request, if you do have one of these, could you just leave a comment saying that you have one? I'm just trying to get some idea as to the sort of rough numbers of these that are in use. Or if you know someone that's got one, if you can just let me know, or ask them to just leave a comment just to say that you have one, and we'll try and get some idea as to the number of these units that are out there, and that will make it easier to decide what to do with regards to developing parts and add-ons for them. Second question is, the plan I have for this at the moment is to make it replace the cassette drive, so it will essentially bolt into this space on the underside of where the cassette drive goes. So the cassette drive is screwed onto these 4 points here, and the board will sit here, and the idea is the plug-in modules will obviously go in through the hole. Whether or not I provide a plastic cover or something, I'm not quite sure yet. That's really over to you, is what would you prefer to see in this position. I don't want to push the cost up by having custom mouldings made. We could 3D print something. If there's somebody out there that wants to get involved and come up with some sort of a 3D printed solution for the memory card, that would be ideal. The memory cards themselves will be very small. It's just going to be a serial EEPROM, a small 8-pin dual package, and so the boards themselves will be very small, and obviously the idea is to keep the cost down. And so the idea is the unit will have some built-in memory, so it will work without the memory card, but so you can have more storage and also transfer data from one Fluke to another. The cards will be removable, so you'll have built-in RAM on the module itself, and then you can have as many of these small cards as you want. But really the question is how we make it look with regard to the plug-in part of the unit. In terms of the interface, it will be a ribbon cable exactly the same as the original cassette. It will go straight up to the PCB and just plug directly onto the same port on the Fluke. I'll just quickly demonstrate this. So this now has an EEPROM fitted. I've spent a bit of time entering a few programs, but now because it's a proper EEPROM, the program should still be there when I power up the Fluke. So it's powered up. What I'll do now is read the unit, and this will also give you some idea as to the speed of this unit. There's about 2,000 bytes worth of programming here at the moment. Okay, so that's how long it takes. I haven't edited anything out of the video. This is how long it's going to take, and if we look we'll see the programs are in there. There's quite a few programs I entered to give plenty of data to get a good idea as to the performance. So you can see this particular program is 490 bytes. Now this one's 187, so some fairly big programs in there. And what I'll do now is write those to memory, and again it will give you some idea as to the speed of operation. It will be slightly faster than this. I will be optimizing it a little bit to create page writes, and also I've added some indicator LEDs to show the various modes. So it will go from green through blue to red, and that indicates the idle mode, the write mode and the read mode. So if I read the tape, for example, you'll see the appropriate LED comes on to indicate that it's reading. As I said before, the write mode is two-phase. It will first go through the write process, and then it will read the contents of the memory back, and so you'll see it go through the various phases as the system progresses through the process. So again, I won't cut anything out. I'll do this in real time, so you'll see exactly how long it takes. So you can see it takes about 7 or 8 seconds to complete, but there is quite a lot of data in here now, so this is probably something along the lines of what you'd normally see, but it certainly beats the sort of 10 to 15 minutes, I did try these exact programs, and it takes just under 15 minutes using a cassette tape. So you can see this is very much faster. If I read that back, you'll see that we should still have our programs in memory. And if I turn the Fluke off and then back on again, you'll see that initially there aren't any programs stored. If I try and access program 5, it'll say created because it wasn't there. But if I now read the cassette, then you'll see that program 5 is now back, and it will make the unit far more usable. And with a single memory card fitted and its internal memory, it will hold about 24K of programs, but as I said, you'll be able to swap out the memory cards. Okay, so any feedback on the format you'd like for the memory cards and any ideas and comments are welcome.